2 words. That's all it took to detonate a 75-year alliance and send Britain's government into emergency lockdown at midnight. Game over. No diplomacy, no phone calls, no warning. Just 2 words delivered to the British embassy in Tel Aviv that changed everything. And what happened next should terrify every Western leader watching this unfold. Because Israel didn't just send a message, they flipped a switch. Within hours, they severed all counter-terrorism intelligence sharing with the United Kingdom. Gone. The pipeline that tracks extremist cells across 3 continents, monitors terrorist financing networks spanning dozens of countries, prevents attacks before they happen. Israel shut it down cold. No negotiation, no grace period, just done. And if you think this is just another diplomatic spat that'll blow over by next week, you need to understand something crucial. What you're about to hear affects every Western nation, every intelligence agency, and quite possibly your own country's security. If this story matters to you, hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you is moving faster than any government can contain it. Here's exactly what triggered the collapse. Last week, Britain officially recognised Palestine as a sovereign state. The world expected Israel's usual response: angry statements at the UN, maybe some trade restrictions, diplomatic theatre that would fade in a news cycle. Instead, they did something no one saw coming. They went silent. No public condemnation, no diplomatic protest, no press conferences with furious officials. Just that private cable with 2 words. And then the real retaliation began. Inside Number 10, Downing Street, chaos erupted within the hour. Senior ministers started cancelling public appearances. Emergency security briefings were called in the middle of the night. By midnight, according to multiple sources inside Westminster, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office was in full crisis mode, with security advisors, MI6 officials and cabinet members scrambling to understand what just happened and, more critically, what happens next. One insider described the atmosphere with 2 words of their own: pure panic. Ministers are reportedly clashing behind closed doors. Some are demanding Starmer issue an immediate public apology to salvage the relationship. Others are pushing him to double down, arguing that backing down now would make Britain look weak to the entire world. The Foreign Secretary allegedly spent 2 hours on emergency calls with counterparts across Europe, trying to gauge who would support Britain if this escalates further. Because without Israeli intelligence, Britain just lost its primary eyes and ears across the Middle East. And this isn't hyperbole. Israel's spy network is legendary. Their penetration of Hamas, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, unmatched anywhere in the world. Their real-time monitoring of weapons shipments from Iran. Their human assets embedded deep inside hostile territories. Their technical surveillance capabilities that can track a single phone from Damascus to Doha. Britain relied on all of it. Every single day, and now it's gone. An MI6 source, speaking on condition of anonymity, called it a national security nightmare. Not exaggeration, not political spin. Those were the exact words used in internal briefings. National security nightmare. Because this isn't about hurt feelings or diplomatic embarrassment. This is about British citizens potentially being at greater risk because the intelligence flow just got cut off. The warnings about planned attacks. The updates on radicalised individuals travelling through Europe. The financial tracking of terrorist funding networks, all of it relied on Israeli cooperation. And Israel just turned off the tap. But Israel wasn't finished delivering the message. Their foreign ministry released a statement that was clearly crafted to send a signal to every Western capital watching this unfold. Quote, "The United Kingdom has chosen sides. History will remember its decision." End quote. 21 words. More devastating than a 1,000-page diplomatic protest. Because that statement wasn't just aimed at Britain, it was aimed at every ally considering a similar move. It was a warning shot, heard from Washington to Paris to Berlin. And then the markets responded. Within hours, the pound dropped against major currencies. Middle East oil futures spiked on uncertainty. Defence stocks fluctuated wildly. Investors worldwide started asking the same question. Did Britain just isolate itself on the global stage? But here's where this story turns into a political bomb that could destroy Starmer's government from the inside. According to leaked diplomatic cables, and we're talking multiple independent confirmations from sources in 3 different countries, Israel is preparing to declassify intelligence documents. These documents allegedly show secret meetings between senior Labour Party officials and Palestinian leaders that took place weeks before Britain's recognition was made public. Let that sink in for a moment. Think about what that means. If those documents are real, and if they show what Israel claims they show, then Starmer's recognition of Palestine wasn't a principled moral decision made after careful deliberation. It was prearranged political theatre, coordinated in advance, planned behind closed doors with Palestinian officials, before the British Parliament, before the British public, before Britain's own intelligence services even knew it was happening. The optics of that would be absolutely catastrophic. Conservative MPs are already sharpening their knives. Opposition leaders are using words like betrayal, deception, and national security scandal in the same breath. There are demands for a full parliamentary inquiry. Some are comparing this to the Iraq War dossier controversy, calling it potentially the gravest breach of public trust in decades. The political fallout from this could reshape British politics for a generation. And even within Starmer's own Labour Party, whispers of a cabinet revolt are growing louder by the hour. One government insider told reporters that during emergency security briefings, Starmer looked visibly shaken. Quote, "You could see it in his face. He realised this isn't foreign policy anymore. This is about survival." End quote. Because if those documents get released and they show what Israel claims, Starmer's government could collapse within weeks. Cabinet members would resign, backbenchers would revolt, the opposition would call for a vote of no confidence. This isn't theoretical political damage. This is existential. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States is absolutely furious. Anonymous State Department sources are leaking to American media with a clear, unmistakable message. We warned them this would happen. We told them the consequences. They didn't listen. There's even talk, still unofficial, but coming from multiple credible sources in Washington, that the Biden administration might quietly punish Britain by freezing them out of key defence contracts. We're talking billions of pounds in trade agreements, cutting-edge military technology sharing programs, joint intelligence operations, the special relationship between the US and UK, the alliance that's held firm since World War II, might be fracturing in real time over this decision. And that would have consequences far beyond diplomacy. British defence contractors could lose American partnerships. Joint military exercises could be scaled back. Information sharing between the CIA and MI6 could be reduced. The geopolitical earthquake from this single decision keeps spreading wider. But then came the twist absolutely no one predicted. Instead of isolating Britain, Israel's hardline game over response might have accidentally triggered the opposite effect. Within 48 hours of Israel's message, Spain announced they're fast-tracking their own Palestine recognition process. Ireland's foreign minister gave a speech publicly defending Britain's decision and hinting strongly that Dublin will follow suit. Even France, which usually plays both sides of every Middle East issue to protect its own interests, had senior advisors leak to French media that Paris will not be intimidated by threats. And then came the power move that changed the entire equation. The United Arab Emirates, a key Israeli ally in the region, a signatory to the Abraham Accords, announced a £5 billion green energy partnership with Britain right in the middle of this crisis. £5 billion. That's not a coincidence. That's not normal business. That wasn't scheduled months ago. That was a calculated signal from the Arab world. They're betting on Britain's gamble. They're essentially saying, maybe it's time the West stops following the same old script. Maybe it's time for a different approach to the Middle East. Maybe the old rules don't work anymore. What we're watching isn't just Britain versus Israel. We're watching the potential beginning of a massive realignment of global power structures. Alliances that have held for decades might be shifting. And it all started with two words. Back in Britain, public opinion has split right down the middle, creating one of the most divisive political moments in recent British history. Social media has become an absolute battlefield. Hashtags like GameOverUK and Stand With Starmer are both trending simultaneously, each with millions of engagements. Half the country is calling Starmer a tray, who destroyed Britain's security for virtue signalling points, who gambled with British lives to score political points with the progressive left. The other half is calling him a visionary, who finally gave Britain an independent foreign policy for the first time in decades, who had the courage to do what's right regardless of political pressure. But here's the data point that should make every politician pay attention. A poll conducted 48 hours after Israel's game over message shows that 61% of UK voters believe Britain should not apologise to Israel. 61%. And that number isn't dropping as the crisis continues. It's actually climbing. Maybe the British public sees something their political class doesn't. Maybe they're tired of being America's junior partner, tired of following Washington's lead on every foreign policy decision. Maybe they want to see their country act like an independent global power again. not just a supporting character in someone else's story. So what does game over actually mean in practical terms? Is this just a temporary diplomatic freeze that will thaw out in a few months when tensions cool? Or is something far more dangerous brewing beneath the surface? Intelligence analysts across Europe are warning about the possibility of cyber retaliation. And here's why that's concerning. British defence networks and government systems experienced unexplained technical anomalies overnight. Networks going down for brief periods, strange access attempts logged in secure systems, unusual data traffic patterns that cybersecurity experts can't immediately explain. Coincidence? Maybe. Technical glitches happen. But after a message like game over, after Israel makes it clear that diplomatic norms no longer apply, nothing looks like coincidence anymore. Israel has cyber capabilities that rival any nation on Earth. Their Unit 8200 is considered one of the most sophisticated cyber warfare divisions in existence. If they wanted to send a digital message to demonstrate their capabilities without leaving clear fingerprints, they absolutely have the technical ability to do it. And the psychological impact of that would be enormous, showing Britain that retaliation doesn't just come through traditional channels anymore. And here's what should keep every world leader awake tonight. This crisis isn't contained to Britain and Israel anymore. Every Western government is now being forced to make an impossible choice. Recognise Palestine and face potential Israeli retaliation. Intelligence cutoffs, cyber threats, American displeasure, economic consequences. Or stay silent and watch your own citizens lose faith in your moral authority while the Arab world questions whether you're capable of independent thought. What Israel did with those two words was send a crystal clear message to every capital city on Earth. Loyalty has a price. Breaking ranks has consequences. The old alliances only hold if you play by the rules we set. But they might have made a critical miscalculation, because right now, across Europe and the Middle East, governments are watching Britain stand alone under intense fire. And some of them are starting to think that maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop letting fear dictate foreign policy. Maybe it's time to show that smaller powers can't dictate terms to larger ones forever. This is geopolitical poker played with oil reserves, weapons contracts, intelligence networks, and the lives of ordinary citizens who have absolutely no say in these decisions. And Britain just went all in with a hand that could either win everything or lose it all. So here's the question that will define the next chapter of international relations. Did Keir Starmer just commit political suicide? Or did he accidentally become the spark that triggers a complete reshaping of global alliances? Because if Spain, Ireland and France follow Britain's lead, if the dominoes actually start falling, the entire Middle East power structure doesn't just shift slightly. It collapses and gets rebuilt from scratch. The Abraham Accords could unravel. American influence in the region could diminish. A whole new framework for Middle East diplomacy might emerge. That two-word message wasn't just sent to Britain. It was sent to every ally watching from the sidelines, every nation quietly weighing their options, every leader wondering if they have the courage or the foolishness to do what Britain just did. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical. Intelligence agencies across the West are on high alert. Diplomatic channels are burning up with emergency calls at all hours. And somewhere in Tel Aviv and London, government officials are gaming out scenarios that range from quiet reconciliation all the way to something far more serious. What do you think happens next? Does Britain back down to save the alliance? Or does this spark a domino effect that changes everything about how the West engages with the Middle East? Drop your prediction below, and if you want the next update the moment it breaks, because I promise you, this story is far from over, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This is the kind of geopolitical earthquake that reshapes the world order. And you're not just reading about it in a history book 20 years from now. You're watching it happen in real time.